Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out the number 2 ranked team from the previous ranked season featuring Kyogre and Tornadus. This is an archetype that was dominant since day 1 of series 10, but it has some, small adjustments that I think make it really interesting. So, first of all, you have Landorus-T with the Assault Vest. This is a really interesting set. Part of it is that it actually does fairly well until a lot of the common Pokemon that you'll run into. Completely walls Regieleki, for example. Completely walls Rillaboom. And being able to wall Rillaboom is really nice because, Rillaboom is obviously one of the best Pokemon into Kyogre. And so with this team, you've got the Landorus-T, you've got the Tsareena, you've got the Incineroar, you've got Tornadus. There's a lot of anti-Rillaboom, basically, which is really important in enabling Kyogre in the long run. So I think AB Landorus-T in general is really interesting. Thunder, Electro Web, Sludge Bomb is a diverse moveset as well. And then you also have that Weather Ball, which is really cool. So it allows you to hit things like Entei or Incineroar for super effective damage as long as you have the rain up. So Landorus-T is a Pokemon I feel like has definitely increased a little bit in popularity. I've seen a bunch of top players run it towards the end of that last ranked season. So it's something that should be on your radar, and I'm excited to really try it out here because it also just offers another means of speed control, right? You don't necessarily have to go with Tornadus Kyogre. Instead, you can go with Thundurus Kyogre, like Electro Web, Water Spout turn 1, or Electro Web Protect. So Landorus-T, really interesting Pokemon, and one that's, not exactly super common in this format. The rest of the Pokemon are all pretty standard. The key things to note are that the Kyogre and Urshifu are not max speed, so it's mod as Kyogre and admin Urshifu. So you're going to deal a little bit more damage with those, but you have to worry about, potential just getting outsped by the same version of the same Pokemon on the other side of the field. So be careful about that. Final couple things to call out here is that the Tornadus is quite bulky. It has the Wacan Berry, and so it's not just like the max speed Tornadus that you'll often see. And so this Pokemon will stick around on the field often for longer than opponents might expect. You've got the Roar on safety goggles on Incineroar, so this is really valuable into setup strategies, especially Xerneas with Amoonguss or Volcarona, as well as potentially denying Trick Room. Those are the two main scenarios you're going to want to use it for. And then finally, Life Orb, Queenly Majesty, Tsareena. So Life Orb is pretty interesting. As of right now, there's no Life Orb on the team, and then AB's on Thundurus. That's, the other common item. And you'll sometimes see like Citrus on Tsareena, but Life Orb is really nice just because it drastically increases your damage output. And with Triple Axle, like that goes a really, really long way. So yeah, this Tsareena is a little bit more offensive than people are normally used to seeing. And the main value of Tsareena here is really for Queenly Majesty, right? Being able to block those Fake Outs or Grassy Glides from the opposing side and just any priority attacks in general. So yeah, this was built by a Japanese player called Suica, so thank you to them for the team and congratulations to them for hitting rank number 2 in the last ranked season. And yeah, this is definitely a little bit more standard than some of the teams that we've been using recently, but I wanted to feature it, one, because it is just truly a remarkably consistent and strong team. That Groudon team that we featured recently as well, that was number 3 from the last ranked season, so I always like featuring some of the top teams from the last ranked season just because that they're really well constructed and also teams that, you can maybe climb the ladder with a little bit easier than some of the other teams that we sometimes feature on Road to Rank. So yeah, huge shoutouts to Suica for the team, and I'm excited to try out and see how Landorus-T does for us today. So thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what your least favorite Pokemon to fight is. The Pokemon that when you see in team preview, your heart drops and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to play this. So I think for me, my answer, like Chansey and Shuckle are ones that I just generally know I'm probably in for a long match. Whimsicott is one that's always tricky just because, it gets access to such a diverse move pool. And then some of like the really bulky Pokemon that can heal off, Ho-Oh for example, is one in which it's just tough because you have to really maneuver your damage and be smart, and a lot of your damage can be mitigated after, one good recover. So those are a couple of my answers, but let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, first game of the day, and we're up against Calyrex Shadow Rider with Mienshao, but some other support in Ferrothorn, Milotic, Incineroar, and Landorus-I. Okay, that's definitely pretty interesting. What do we want to go with here? I have to be very careful about bringing my Incineroar because of the competitive Milotic that we might run into. Tornadus here is going to be bulky. We don't have Protect, right? Yeah. So if I were to leave this, I'd have to be a little bit careful of Mienshao or Incineroar plus Calyrex. Landorus-T is pretty interesting here because we are Assault Vested. So we could Electro Web as well. And then Tsareena is somewhat compelling to me here because we have the Life Orb, but I I guess it's mainly for Milotic. I don't think we really need it. I think it's probably Tornadus, Urshifu, Thundurus, Kyogre. I'm just trying to determine in what order. I think I like Thundurus plus Kyogre. My main issue with leading Tornadus is that I just can't protect with it on turn 1. And I guess actually though the team does have Tsareena, so my opponent might be less incentivized to click Fake Out on turn 1. That's one thing to keep in mind. So yeah, I don't know. Like even if they like don't fully feel incentivized to click Fake Out, it's still a little bit scary. I just leave myself exposed and like relatively vulnerable. So yeah, we'll see how things play out here. I really like my opponent's outfit. It's like cotton candy. And they're going to go with Milotic and Ferrothorn, because this is very slow relative to a lot of the possible leads that they could have had. And I'm pretty happy with this, generally, I'd say. I guess the only issue is that Ferrothorn is obviously quite the tank into us right now. But honestly, Kyogre is not even that important damage-wise this game. They could just Power Whip, right? Like, I think switching out into Tornadus and going for Thunder turn 1 is pretty acceptable here. Yeah, I mean, Kyogre is still pretty important. I shouldn't discount it, right? And it's very good and can potentially sweep against everything in the back of my opponent's team. So, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Milotic tries to protect here. Like, turn 1, I was also thinking just going Water Spout Thunder to just snipe out Milotic immediately. But they're not going to protect. I assume it still survives here, but that's fine. If we get a one-hit KO, though, that's obviously an amazing start. And it hangs on with a Sliver. We do get a Paralysis, which is kind of lucky. They have a Barrier, which is fine. Icy Wind, Scald, Hypnosis, Ice Beam are options from Milotic right now. It's just going to be Scald. That's fine. We're Assault Vested here. That actually still does so much damage. Yeah, that's because that was a crit, okay. And they just Leech Seed. Alright, that's fine. So they run into a Protect there. Like, Kyogre Water Spouting there actually would have been pretty good for us then. But all things considered, that's not a bad turn at all. I'll take it. So now I have a free opportunity to get a Tailwind up. Like, I almost want to switch out Thundurus, but I guess Thundurus actually isn't really that important since we've taken so much damage thanks to that crit on turn 1. So I also don't need a Tailwind immediately here. I think it's fine to just click Thunder into Milotic in case this has healing, and I don't actually mind going for a Hurricane here onto Ferrothorn just for damage because I don't need to get Tailwind up this turn. Oh dear, the Helping Hand changes a lot because Helping Hand Gyro Ball might be enough to KO the Tornadus. So maybe I did need to Tailwind there then. But we get a Confusion here. Okay. I haven't seen Helping Hand Milotic in a long time, so I didn't think we were at any threat of getting KO'd onto Tornadus this turn. If I knew about Helping Hand, then I would definitely click Tailwind. So let's see if they attack through the Confusion here. Okay, they do, and they manage to Gyro Ball Tornadus, which I'd assume is enough for a KO. Oh, it's actually not. Okay, nice. So the bulk on Tornadus really, really helps us out here. That's fantastic, because that ensures that I get Tailwind up. And now we've positioned ourselves to, even if we lose both Tornadus and Landorus-T here, to just bring out Kyogre and Urshifu and just sweep with both of those in the end game. So, yeah. Really, really clutch survival from Tornadus there. I guess you could bring out Mienshao here. That'd actually be a pretty strong bring, I think. If Mienshao comes out, though, I'd probably just switch Tornadus out into the... I'd rather go into Kyogre or Urshifu. Okay, they bring out Calyrex, though. Cool. Calyrex coming out's even better to see, because it means I can get a Thunder onto it, potentially. Yeah, this next turn, I think I'm just going to Thunder into Calyrex and just get Tailwind up here. Our endgame is pretty solid with Kyogre under Tailwind and Urshifu. The only downside is because I led with the Kyogre, Rain is slowly expiring. Ferrothorn actually switches, okay. Into Landorus. Yeah, they have no endgame into Kyogre at this point in the game, I think. If Calyrex subs here, then I'm just free to Icy Wind or Hurricane. If Calyrex just goes for Astral Barrage. Oh, that is Scarfed Calyrex. I think that's still fine. Wow, that is interesting. I did not see that coming. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's Scarf, right? Let me just double check the speed stats once we bring our Pokemon out, but I would think Thundurus would outspeed otherwise. Tornadus hanging out from the Helping Hand Gyro Ball was so huge, though, and Thundurus was really good in this game just to put on pressure against Milotic, which otherwise really walls the Kyogre. I mean, assuming they are Choice Scarfed here this next turn, I can just go for the safe Sucker Punch. I just want to double check the speeds here. Okay, we're modest max. Thundurus hits 254. I think it's fine to just Sucker Punch here, because if you actually really are Scarf Calyrex, which, like, you should be, then... Wait, let me just double check. Because we just need to pass, what, 223, is it? Yeah, we would have hit 254, so that has to be Scarf Calyrex. So, like, Water Spout here and Sucker Punch is fine. I don't want to overread into things right now, because I still have multiple turns of Tailwind. And they stay in, yeah, exactly. I think that's my opponent's only win condition, actually, is to stay in and hope for me to mess up there. Because I don't need to read into a Ferrothorn switch in. Even if they protect Landorus and switch in Ferrothorn, which is the worst case position, it's still a pretty fine turn for us, right? Because, like, your Ferrothorn will take around 30 to 40% from Water Spout, heal back a little bit from leftovers, but then the next turn, I still have Tailwind up, so I'm free to just Water Spout and Wicked Blow again safely, right? So all we needed to do in that position is make sure that the Kyogre didn't faint, and since we had seen that the Calyrex already outsped our Thundurus and used Choice Scarf, the most important thing there is just to deny it from potentially picking up another surprise KO there. So, you know, it's so critical when playing with Tornogre teams, just to get that positioning, that one turn, that one single really powerful Water Spout, right? And so we weren't really poised to get that off in the beginning of the game because we're up against a Ferrothorn and a Milotic, but it was fantastic for us in the end game because my opponent basically brought their best Kyogre answers out immediately. Landorus-T put in so much work there, just getting that chunk of damage onto Milotic and putting it in KO range from practically anything as well. So, yeah. You know, I think, like, the Pokemon on this team are relatively conventional, but you have a really nice Tornadus spread. The Landorus-T itself is rather unique. You don't see that frequently. And, yeah, you've a little bit bulkier, right? Instead of, like, Timid and Jolly, Kyogre, and Urshifu, it's Modest and Adamant. So, yeah, with Scarf Calyrex, really interesting. Yep, max speed, 222. Citrus, Milotic. It did have Protect, so, yeah, we got pretty lucky that it didn't go for Protect on either of those turns. But the Helping Hand makes a lot of sense there, because if you snipe Tornadus and deny me Tailwind, you actually probably win the game there. So I think that was a strong play. AV Incineroar. So Defense Nature. Yep, makes sense. Leftovers, Ferrothorn, Classic. In speed, looks like. Gyro Ball, Power Whip, Leech Seed, Protect. Very standard. Life Orb, Landorus. Yep, that's very standard. And then Focus Sash, Mienshao. With no knockoff, it has Feint, Fake Out, Close Combat, and Wide Guard. Sometimes you'll see knockoff over something like Feint or the Wide Guard here. But yeah, Scarf Calyrex is really interesting, and Tailwind saves us completely, right? Actually, it wasn't even Tailwind necessarily, it was Urshifu having Sucker Punch, but Tailwind saved us in the sense that we were able to confirm lowest choice Scarf Calyrex, and then, you know, we put ourselves in a position where late game Kyogre and Urshifu were just both so strong in conjunction. So yeah, that was definitely a fun first game, and let's look for another one. Alright, next match of the day, and we're up against Lugia. I love going up against Lugia because that's one of the last two Pokemon I haven't featured on the channel yet, and it's one that I obviously plan on getting around to. So yeah, my opponent's also really high ranked. Is this the same Lugia player? I have to check the trainer name because, like, we've run into Lugia, I think twice at this point, or maybe it was just one time on the ladder, and it was a really interesting Lugia team. So I'm checking if it's the same trainer name. Because, yeah, that was a really cool team. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll down to that game. No, okay, it's a different trainer name. So it's not the same player. The team's also quite different from the last time we went up against Lugia. But, yeah, pretty cool to see. So Landorus-T should actually be really valuable for us. Venusaur is really interesting with the lack of sun. What do I still want to go with? Excuse me. Thundurus, Urshifu, Kyogre for sure. Let's see. Thundurus, Urshifu, Kyogre. I don't know. Tsareena does have triple Axle, but like, eh. I'm thinking Incineroar. I like Thundurus lead with. Honestly, Thundurus Urshifu is pretty compelling to me here. With Kyogre and Incineroar. And the main reason I want to bring Incineroar is just because it's actually not bad offensively into Lugia. Like, it has super effective damage into it. So, yeah, we'll see how things play out. It got dark really quickly, so I had to go turn on the light between matches. But, yeah. Kyogre into Lugia is an interesting one, because I think Lugia actually prefers to go up against Kyogre. Like, that's one of the restricted that I think you generally have a decent matchup with if you're using Lugia. But they're going to go with Porygon 2 and Zapdos. Okay. Which I think is actually really good for us, because there's nothing stopping me from just clicking Electro Web into close combat turn 1. Now, Of course, Porygon can switch out here. But I'm just going to go for it. Because it's still a speed drop. Okay, and they stay in. Wow, that's really good. Oh, it actually one-shots Porygon. That was a crit. I don't think we one-shot with the crit, but I think after Electro Web we KO, which is exactly why I wanted to go for that play. Zapdos is slow, though, which is actually really interesting. That's very slow. Okay. Wasn't expecting that, but I'll gladly take it. And they go for Hurricane. I mean, if they miss that turn 1, they are in such a bad spot. So they managed to connect on it, but it's still fine. I think that's... We'll take that, like, turn 1 trade-off any day. I don't love seeing the confusion, though. Okay. Mainly because, like, if we weren't confused, then it's like you can't even safely protect whatever's coming in. Okay, yeah, it's Entei, and I think it really has to be, so that's the correct decision there. Then with that, I don't think the confusion actually matters. But obviously, it's pretty risky to go for a Hurricane just like that, rather than something like T-Bolt. Because if they miss there, yeah, like, Urshifu's just in such a prime position, like, then we could just Electro Web into Wicked Blow this next turn pretty safely. So I think I probably want to conserve Urshifu, because my opponent surely has that Lugia in the back. I don't like switching in Kyogre here, though, so I'm going to bring in Incineroar. With Incineroar, I can just pressure with Fake Out the subsequent turn, and also, one play I could have made this turn is actually switching Kyogre and then Weather Ball Entei. That would have been really interesting. But I don't think Weather Ball KOs anyway, and AV is a decently common item on Entei, so like I don't mind assuming that it has that until we see otherwise. They actually just go for E-Speed. Okay, cool. Works for me. We get another Electro Web off. These are actually doing, like, you know, sizable amounts of damage, too, which is really valuable. That's the cool thing about Thundurus, and any Electric-type Pokemon uses Electro Web, right? It's, like, good speed control, and you're getting good damage. And T-Bolt into Thundurus. Okay, I guess they forgot about Voltas over there. We'll take it. I am gonna... Here, I think I'm willing to actually Thunder into Zapdos, and then switch this out into Kyogre at this point in the game. Because that sets up the rain, meaning that Entei can't really do anything into Landorus-T. You can Snarl, or... I mean, Snarl's fine, I guess. It would be a good option on their end. But yeah, this game has basically gone... I wouldn't say perfectly, because we got hit by the Hurricane and Confusion. But other than that, like, it's gone quite nicely. Zapdos does protect here, but that's fine, right? Because now I've positioned Kyogre into just click Water Spout this next turn. And we should outspeed the Entei now. So, let's see if they go for a Snarl. It's Stone Edge, actually. Okay. That's fine, though. As long as, yeah, you don't crit there and KO us, we are in great shape. So here, I can just Electro Web. And I like Electro Webbing just to cover for a Lugia switch in. Now, normally, Lugia's pretty scary because of the threat of weakness policy, but we have such a big lead here in terms of resources. They just E-Speed. Okay, does that KO us, actually? It does, but I would think Water Spout's a double KO here. So I think it's fine. Okay, nice. Yeah, so much about this team is just positioning with Kyogre, right? And getting it out in the right position. So we get a knockout there. Should be Lugia as my opponent's last one. I can bring in Incineroar, click Fake Out. What's my fear here? Like, I don't know how fast the Lugia is, so there's a chance it outspeeds the Urshifu, because we're not max speed. Also... I was saying I should bring Incineroar because it has a Dark-type attack, but I actually don't have a Dark-type attack to deal damage into Lugia, so this might not have been the smartest decision. Okay, yeah, I don't know how fast my opponent's Lugia is here. Like, if they're slower than Urshifu, then Ice Beam into Wicked Blow certainly is enough just to win the game. You would think Lugia protects here. I'm just going to Fake Out. I honestly don't want to Ice Beam yet, because I don't want to activate a potential weakness policy. Oh, here if we see like Kyogre's faster, that's a huge piece of information, but Kyogre's not faster, it is slower, so... oh, Scald does insane damage there, actually. Yeah, we don't even need to Ice Beam. Hold on, Scald itself is just good enough here, wow. I also could have just Water Spouted, actually. There's not that much incentive to not click Water Spout there, but it's fine. Like, Parting Shot and Scald actually will just get the knockout here at this point, so, yeah. I honestly, for some reason, thought Lugia could survive, resisted the Water-type attacks from Kyogre, just because it's always so bulky. But yeah, Kyogre is just an absolute beast here, and it's going to be able to just pick up a 2-hit KO onto Lugia with the Rain and its item there. So yeah, In the end, like, Lugia was just never in a really good position to succeed, and just like the last game, we were basically able to get Kyogre the right speed control so it can come out and be in a position to just click Water Spout and threaten with 2 knockouts, or at least a knockout and a half, basically. So, we're gonna check this team. Yep, it was Weakness Policy. Yep, pretty speedy, so would have outspeed Urshifu. Recover, Calm Mind, Earth Power, Aeroblast, so we didn't have Protect. AV Entei here. Life Orb Venusaur with Chlorophyll. Focus Sash Hitmontop, okay. Wiki Berry on Zapdos, and then Porygon 2, Recover, Trick Room, Foul Play, Ice Beam, got it. So, like, they didn't have great ways to self-activate policy other than self-Sucker Punch, but that itself is pretty decent. But yeah, you also have to think twice about just, like, leading Hitmontop plus Lugia in a matchup like this. So, I think Lugia is definitely just a pretty tough restricted to execute, and without a weakness policy, it just really doesn't do that much damage, right? Like, it did, like, what, 25-30% to Kyogre, which just really isn't very much, but cool to see my opponent, you know, use Lugia and be so high ranked, so kudos to them, because it is, yeah, definitely one of the tougher restricted Pokemon to use, and us having Dark Urshifu in itself makes it really hard for Lugia to do very much. But turn 1 of the game obviously started out really well, where we just got a free knockout onto Porygon. If we didn't lead Urshifu and Porygon gets Trick Room up, that's a completely different match, because there's so much recovery on my opponent's team, right? You've got Recover on the Lugia, you've got the Roost on the Zapdos, the Recover on the Porygon as well, so all of that can add up, but if you can just knock them out before they can even click any recovery move, that gives you a huge advantage. Alright, next match here, and we're up against Xerneas. Okay. So, Thundurus is intriguing here, because we have this Sludge Bomb. We also have Roar with Goggles on Incin. So this is normally the Xerneas counter. Now, they don't have Amoonguss or Volcarona, but they have Indeedee instead, which means that it's going to be easier said than done to actually force the Xerneas out. I don't know, though. Like, Tornadus, Kyogre. We don't have terrain control, but that's fine. The main thing is I have Tsareena, so I can switch in on a fake out potential turn 1 and just attack with Kyogre. That's pretty interesting. But the thing is, like, maybe I don't bring Incineroar then. Like, maybe if I'm going with this trio, the goal is to just knock out Xerneas, because, like, Roar is only really going to come in handy turn 1 pre-Geomancy, or right when it Geomancies. Afterwards, especially with them not having Amoonguss or Volcarona, it's, like, kind of hard to actually get maximum value from it. So I'm actually going to bring Thundurus in the back, I think. Actually, maybe I want Urshifu. Yeah, Urshifu, just a single close combat. I mean, they don't bring Stakataka here, right? Thundurus does have Electro Web. Alright, I'm actually going to go with Thundurus here. Mainly because we have the Weather Ball as well, so we actually have super effective damage into Entei as well as the Stakataka. But I just don't think Stack comes out here because we have Kyogre. But if you have Wide Guard, it actually does make a lot of sense. So, we'll see. Also, my lighting has changed like 3 different times throughout the course of this episode. It was daytime earlier, and then I turned on the light, but then realized I didn't have my ring light on, so then I turned that on and connected it after the second match. So if you're confused about that, yeah, that's why. Rillaboom plus Xerneas. This is a good lead by them. It's a very good lead by them. Now, the play I can make turn 1 is pivoting Kyogre out into the Tsareena and just going for a taunt onto Xerneas, but it's fairly predictable. They could also make a really impressive play, which is switch out Rillaboom into Indeedee to set up the Psychic terrain and then Geomancy. If they go for that, that might just be a game-winning play on turn 1. Honestly, if I were my opponent's shoes and I brought Indeedee, that is definitely what I would go for. So let's see if they switch out. Okay, Kyogre switches out first. Ideally, they just try to click Fake Out, forgetting about the Tsareena switch in, but nice. Okay, they don't Fake Out, but they also don't switch into Indeedee, so at least we taunt the Xerneas. I'll take that trade-off. And they had Wood Hammer. Okay, cool. As long as we get that taunt off, I think we're in great shape, honestly. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now what do I want to do? Xerneas is taunted. I'm faster with the Tsareena. It's very easy to Tailwind this next turn with Tornadus. Like, the play I lean towards here is just triple Axle into the Rillaboom and Tailwind, because if we knock out Rillaboom, that paves the way for Kyogre in the late game. Maybe they switch the Rillaboom out, but I also think a lot of players here wouldn't expect Tsareena to actually get a one-hit KO onto Rillaboom, and we have the Life Orb. So if we're able to connect with all 3 hits of triple Axle, then that's enough. But they're going to switch out, maybe into Indeedee. Yeah. So they had the potential to switch in Indeedee turn 1, and that would have been really, really bad for us. So at the end of the day, like, I'll take this trade-off. Because the thing is, now I'll get good damage on the Indeedee, I'll get Tailwind up, and then I position myself to bring out the Kyogre and just click Water Spout with that. So there's Psychic Seed, that's fine. Tsareena doesn't really care about that right now. So we'll get Tailwind up. It's just dealing with the potential Rillaboom in the back, right? And with me losing Tsareena this turn, presumably, we only get 2 hits. Okay, that's actually not great. And they Gleam. I need to charge my controller as well. But obviously hitting all 3 times there is not exactly the highest probability, so can't really complain. Yeah, I think I do just bring out Kyogre here. Like, it pains me a little. Mainly because my opponent has that Rillaboom in the back, right? Like, that's just such a big threat to us. But here I can go for Water Spout and go for an Icy Wind at least. Yeah, that covers for any switch in. I don't really find any value in going for Hurricane here because Indeedee could have gone for Follow Me. They actually switch in Rillaboom, which I think I'm okay with. Although this is where going for Hurricane would have been good if Indeedee didn't go for a Follow Me this turn. That's incredibly risky. And they didn't Follow Me, wow. Okay, then I should have just clicked Hurricane there. Especially because the Kyogre is faster than Tornadus. Like, Icy Wind getting a speed drop isn't really super significant here, right? So, we'll get the Icy Wind off, but I assume Rillaboom survives. Yeah, because if Hurricane just gets that knockout, you lose your Fake Out user and your best offense into Kyogre, right? So at that point, it probably just wins us the game. Now this is interesting, because you probably bring the Xerneas back out, but you know I have Taunt. Kyogre protecting or switching out here seems super duper obvious. Like, if you're my opponent, it's pretty easy to fake out Kyogre and just Geomancy here, right? But I could see them making a hard read and clicking fake out into the Tornadus slot. Yeah, I'm down to punish them really, really hard if they make that. So, like, go for Icy Wind and Water Spout here. Okay, they go for Glide. Yeah, alright. So they made the right read there. Because if I just protect an Icy Wind, or actually, it still comes down to what Thundurus does this turn, because there's a good chance that instead of Geomancy, it clicks the, instead of Geomancy, it clicks, like, Moonblast or Dazzling instead, which would still give us an out. And they do Geomancy. Okay, nice. So they read me really well that turn, right? Like, they basically made the perfect play for what I did there. I just figured they weren't going to go for that just because it was, like, too obvious of a play, and I had, revealed a fair amount of information there that I, would think would deter them from doing that. But they were just one step ahead of me, basically, and probably read me into thinking that exactly. So the main mistake in this game was just not clicking Hurricane onto the Xerneas slot. Mainly because I thought it was a wasted attack, because I actually forgot that the Kyogre outspeeds the Tornadus on this team. But the speed drop isn't really important when you can potentially just get a knockout onto Rillaboom. And if Rillaboom is eliminated, then Kyogre should just win us this game. So I definitely did not execute this one super well. Xerneas probably just protects here. I've got Sludge Bomb and Hurricane, so I'm just going to double up onto it here. Rillaboom's not really important. They notably don't go for a... I think I actually should have clicked Thunder instead. Because then it gives me a Para and a Confusion chance. We actually get the Confusion there, which is obviously very nice. There's Sludge Bomb. Not bad damage. Doesn't get a poison. Does Xerneas attack through here, though? It does. Okay. Yeah, well played. Like, the one turn when they had Rillaboom and the Kyogre out next to Rillaboom and Xerneas out next to each other, the play they made is, I guess, the safest. Yeah, because I guess, well, the play I could have done to cover for it is protect Kyogre, Hurricane into Rillaboom. But my fear there is that they just fake out the Tornadus slot instead. If they fake out Tornadus, then I probably just lose the game there immediately anyway. So I had the opportunity to, prevent myself from being even put in that position by just going for the Hurricane onto the Xerneas slot. It was risky of them to switch out, but it paid off very, very heavily, and they probably recognized, hey, this is the best way for me to get the Geomancy up. Yeah, and, like, Indeedee not going for Follow Me there was kind of surprising, just because, like, normally Tornadus is faster than Kyogre, and so it would redirect a potential Hurricane away there, because, yeah, if Rillaboom faints there, I think Kyogre is just in a really prime position. So this is one in which, like, I had a really big opportunity. It was, like, a low-risk, high-reward play, but I didn't identify it. And, yeah, it's important to remember, because I forgot in that game, that Kyogre is actually faster than the Tornadus on this team, so keep that in mind. But kudos to my opponent, right? They like managed to identify exactly what they needed to do, how to get Xerneas out safely and Geomancy successfully, and yeah, they just played better, honestly. So then I'm thinking, okay, Pokemon choice wise, is there anything else I could have done? I don't really love bringing Incineroar or Urshifu there, and it's like we were never in a position to really get Roar anyway, right? Like Roar is a cool move, but it just doesn't really work out that frequently in this matchup because they don't have an Amoonguss or a Volcarona. So yeah, I basically just needed to knock out the Rillaboom. Let's say Indeedee went, or let's say they stayed in with Xerneas. No, let's say they went into their 4th Pokemon. I wonder if it was like Stakataka, because they like switching in Rillaboom there is so risky, whereas like it would have made more sense to sacrifice your 4th and then get Rillaboom and Xerneas out safely next to each other. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure. But yeah, they just made the better reads in the last couple of turns of that game, and it was mainly the Geomancy turn, but I felt like I had to make a big play there, because if I just go for the safe play, which is Protect Hurricane, maybe it's still winnable because then I have a fully healthy Kyogre, and then I can Water Spout. It would very heavily come down to what their last Pokemon is, but then if it's Stack, I also have to respect Wide Guard, which is pretty scary. So yeah, but let's look for another one. All right, it's gonna be Calyrex Ice for this one. That's pretty cool. Very diverse set of restricteds. Lugia, yeah, Calyrex Ice. So what do I want to do here? Mimi plus Calyrex is obviously the fear. They can set up Trick Room, but I have Roar. That's where Roar is actually really handy here. So this might be an Incineroar plus Tornadus game, just a hard deny Trick Room, and then Urshifu plus Kyogre in the back. Both of those just offer us really good offense. The problem is then I'm kind of weak to Tapu Fini. I'm actually very weak to Tapu Fini. So I actually think I need to bring something else to deal with Fini here. Now, if I'm my opponent and I want to get Trick Room up, I would probably just lead Instant Mimikyu. So I'm going to go Instant Kyogre just to put maximum pressure damage-wise. Try to bait them into clicking Fake Out into Kyogre and then just Roar Mimikyu. Urshifu in the back, and then one of Landorus-T and Tsareena in the back. Both are really, really weak into Calyrex Ice. Thundurus has Weather Ball. Yeah, I'm going to bring Thundurus actually for that reason. And it's Assault Vested, so we can stand against the Fini a little bit better. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what I learned from that last game. I mean, one is just that Rillaboom is obviously really, really good into Kyogre, so I have to be very careful about... Like, I have to eliminate Rillaboom really as quickly as possible and look for any potential opportunity to get rid of it. Yeah, so it is Instant Mimikyu. Good. So the idea here is... Well, actually, it might be interesting, because if you're my opponent, you might just say, hey, I don't even mind if you KO my Incineroar, because it gives me a free switch into Calyrex. I actually didn't think about that possibility. So for that reason, I'm actually not going to Water Spell, because I don't want to KO Incineroar here. KOing Incineroar doesn't really give us that much, because if anything, it just gives my opponent a free switch in. And then they just go into Calyrex, Self-Shadow Sneak, start Glacial Lancing or High Horsepowering, and things can get pretty ugly pretty quickly. So, yeah, in this position... I've got Thundurus and Urshifu in the back. I am going to click Roar into Mimikyu and Scald into Mimikyu. Best case is that they just fake out Kyogre here. But, okay, cool. They do fake out into it. Nice. Nice. And this is, yeah, where Roar is huge. Just helps out against Trick Room. So that was the idea behind this lead, where it's like, normally my opponent might be incentivized to click fake out there into the Incineroar slot, but yeah, there's not as much reason here. So this is great. Honestly, Flare Blitz and Water Spout might just be enough for a KO here, so I'm just going to go for it. Parting Shot was probably safer, but, like, this is Water Spout in Rain we're talking about, from Modest Kyogre, too. And, this should confirm all of my opponent's 4 Pokemon as well. So once again, with this team, right, it's looking for the 1 to 2 big turns that you can get with Water Spout, if you can. Because a single Water Spout is game-defining. It's at full HP. It just does so much damage. It's remarkable. You're not going to protect or switch out either Pokemon, which honestly I think is the play here. Oh, Ferrothorn actually probably survives this. Okay. Because the rain is up. So Parting Shot was probably the play there then. Even if it survives, though, it's honestly fine, I think. Yeah, it's okay. We'll see what it goes for, like, because... Power Whip is the obvious play to make here, but maybe it's a Leech Seed. Or a Body Press, even. And it's Leech Seed. Okay, perfect. Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to actually run into Ferrothorn twice today. It's not a Pokemon I really had that high up in terms of, like, things I expected to see. But this is great because it's like you have to bring in one of Mimikyu or the Calyrex. If you bring out Calyrex, what do I want to do? Parting Shot, Scald, probably. I could even switch Kyogre out right now because like it's clear they didn't bring Tapu Fini at this point, right? So, all right, just bring Mimikyu out. Like, I am down to Roar, I think. And Kyogre's not that important at this point in the game, because we have enough damage for everything else in the back. So, honestly, I think Water Spout into Roar here is fine. All we want to do is just make sure Trick Room doesn't go up on their end, right? So this breaks Disguise. Almost KOs Ferrothorn. I could have doubled on the Ferrothorn there, but then I risked Trick Room actually going up. And my opponent's way of coming back into this game is sweeping me with Calyrex under Trick Room. So we just want to deny that. Even if Mimikyu reads into it and goes for Play Rough here, that's fine. And yeah, they actually Iron Defense as well. So this is like a all-in play for my opponent this turn, basically. Trick Room and Iron Defense, which I honestly think is quite smart. But now it's going to be really tough for them to win, I think. Well, not necessarily, actually. Because Calyrex does come out safely. And I'm taking more and more damage with the Kyogre right now, thanks to the Leech Seed. So that decreases our damage output and increases their health, which obviously is not ideal. Question I have here is whether or not Water Spout can KO. The other question is whether or not I want to Roar this turn into the Calyrex slot. Because I could also Parting Shot. Okay, I think I'm down to Parting Shot Calyrex here and Scald. Because at this point, if you're my opponent, you might be fed up with all these Roars, right? Maybe Roar is still just more consistent, though, but at this point, they might actually be willing to high horsepower the Incineroar slot. Cool. Ferrothorn protects. I also ended up Scalding Calyrex. I was thinking about Ferrothorn there, but I felt like the protect was fairly obvious, so I wanted to just cover for that. And we even get a burn. That should 100% secure the game. And yeah, they went for high horsepower here. Perfect. 152 down to 93, so even if we didn't get the burn, we would have survived the turn, but this should just hard win us the game now. So, yeah, like, earlier in that last match against Xerneas, I was talking about how Roar can be really good to deny the Xerneas, but it's actually probably more important for the Trick Room matchup, right? You have multiple ways to deny Trick Room with Taunt on the Incin, with Roar from... Sorry, Taunt on Tornadus, Roar on Incin. Hold on, what do I want to bring out? You just go into Urshifu here, right? Yeah. Urshifu here, and then Wicked Blow into Ferrothorn, Scald into Calyrex is always really safe. Yeah. Unless Wicked Blow doesn't KO Ferrothorn. We should actually have to respect that possibility. That is, like, low-key a little scary. And Calyrex is burned, so actually that really does no damage to us at this point in the game. I honestly think Water Spout might also KO, so I'm down to just Wicked Blow the Ferrothorn here and Water Spout. I guess if you're my opponent, what's your win con? Maybe a double protect with Ferrothorn, and then you get Trick Room up with Calyrex. That actually could be an issue. Oh, actually, no, it wouldn't be, right? Because I'd always guarantee get the Wicked Blow through the protect anyway. Nice. Okay, that just KOs. Perfect. Yeah, this team just makes such effective use of Dark Urshifu and Kyogre. Like, these two are your primary sweepers, and they're going to do the bulk of the damage, right? The others can be helpful in the right matchups, but like Kyogre and Urshifu basically come out almost every matchup. And the main one in this one is that my opponent's team was very heavily concentrated towards Calyrex-I, getting Trick Room up and setting up that weakness policy. So we basically did everything in our power to deny that. And it starts with the lead, right? Like, the only lead you can go with that team to safely get Trick Room up most of the time is going to be Incineroar plus the Mimikyu. You could go Incin plus Calyrex-Ice as well, but that's really weak to my Incin and Kyogre lead. So, yeah. Now we can just Wicked Blow and Scald, and that should be game over. So you can see how good this team is, right? Like, it's no surprise to me that this was the number 2 ranking team from last season. And Game 3, like, I just didn't... I missed out on a really big opportunity to knock out that Rillaboom, and that was my bad. If we had knocked that out, I'd feel pretty good about our position. And then my opponent just, you know, made the safe and fantastic play of the glide into the Geomancy that turn. Yeah, I needed to just knock out Rillaboom sooner than later. So, yeah. And, like, the other tricky thing there is that they had Indeedee rather than, like, a Mungus or a Volcarona for redirection, so Roar is not exactly super good on my end as well. So they had a good lead. They conserved their Rillaboom well. Even if I had protected Kyogre and went for Hurricane there, we would at least been in a better position, because then I can Tailwind. But the thing is that Kyogre is really, like, it's not max speed. And we didn't have do we Icy win the Xerneas at that point yet? No, right? Well, if we did, then we would outspeed after Tailwind, but if we didn't, then the Xerneas would still outspeed Kyogre and could just safely Moonblast into that slot. So the main thing in that game is I basically need to get a Water Spout onto onto Xerneas pre-Geomancy. And the way they positioned themselves, like with Rillaboom and Xerneas, basically denied me, that opportunity, which was really well done on their end. And so, like, that's the slight downside. We don't have any, like, really strong Steel types. And so, normally on rain teams, you'll have maybe one Steel type, like something like... Actually, I was going to say Stakataka, but that's not really that common on rain teams. But, Steel types in general obviously will help out against the Xerneas, but without it there, we have to play towards a more narrow win condition. And I didn't, effectively do that in Game 3. So, yeah. That's going to be it for this one. If you're looking for a really strong team to climb with, this is certainly it. And yeah, cool to try out the Landorus-T with the AV. We brought that out into a bunch of games. That was really valuable. And at the end of the day, yeah, Tornogre just continues to be really, really dominant. So thanks so much as always for watching. Thanks to the team creator for the team. Details in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day. And I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.